Right. Now again, Gills fans, welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is getting to that time of week again where it's match preview show time, and it will be a tough one for Neil Harris's Gills this coming Saturday as we welcome, as they are well known now, Paul Simpson's Carlisle United, a side that is riding the crest of a promotion wave and are sitting very pretty at the top end of the table. And I'm pleased to say, to find out all we need to know about the Cumbrians, I'm joined by Carlisle United fan Liam Denwood. Liam, first of all, thank you for coming on. Hope you're well. And tell us about your YouTube channel before we get into the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be on. The YouTube is Blue Army TV. It's Blue Army TV on Twitter as well and on Instagram. I've pretty much just been, over the last few years, very similar to what you're doing. Just after every game, it used to be at the ground before they told me I couldn't do that anymore. But so now it's just with this backdrop behind me. After every match, I try to get it out as soon as possible after the match. Just a little match review of the game, review of the season so far, and results around the league as well.
Good stuff. I will put Liam's Twitter handle in the description at the bottom of this video, and I will also put the details for the YouTube channel. So go and check out both of his accounts. Go and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And fingers crossed, you can get a Carlisle perspective of a Gills win come 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock Saturday afternoon. But all jokes aside, do go and check it out because there's plenty of really good content creators across the league. Right, Saturday. Let's have a look at recent form for both sides, and it makes pretty decent reading for both clubs at the moment. Gills in their last 6, it's quite symmetrical. It's 2 wins, 2 draws and 2 defeats. So it's 8 points from the last 18 available for Neil Harris's Charges. Paul Simpson's Carlisle can better that at the moment. They have taken 14 points from the last half dozen games, which is 4 draws. No, it's not. It's 4 wins and 2 draws. So really decent form. And we are going to have to be at it from the word go, I think, come 3 o'clock Saturday. Breaking it down a bit further, this is where it levels it out a little bit more, Liam. Gills have been phenomenal at home since the takeover. It's 5 wins from the last 6 on our own patch, so 15 points from 18 available. Solitary defeat came against a very good Bradford City side. You boys have been fine on the road, though. It's 11 points in the same period, so that was 3 wins, 2 draws and solitary defeat. So it points towards what should be a fairly even game. And we've just had a discussion about a very, very weird stat that I stumbled across researching for this video. But we'll get to that in a minute. Highest scorers in the division, is that correct?
Yeah, as far as I know.
58 goals scored. Third best
and that's
away
coming
record.
after 2 0-0 draws as well.
Yeah, that was, I've written that down as the silver lining at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got it as third best away record in the division as well. 30 points from 54 available across 18 games. But yeah, did right, but have blanked in the last 2. But you can talk us through them last 2. They're against good sides, weren't they? So how did you perform against Stevenage and Bradford City? Because it's important at this stage to not be losing against teams in and around you, I'd imagine.
Well, that's it. I think you go into them 2 games, and the idea is to just try and stay where you are in the league. I think we were 3rd before them 2 games, and we're 3rd now. Stevenage were always the toughest one for me because they're up there for a reason. And Bradford at the time, they had a better sort of last 6 games than us because they've been drawn a few games recently, but they haven't lost in a long, long time. And when we played them, I think it was like 3 wins, 3 draws or something very similar to that. Plus, they've got Cook, who's the top goal scorer in the division at the minute. So to keep a clean sheet was really impressive against them. And I think probably in the first half, we were by far the better team. And I think that can be said for both games. I think both games were very, very similar for me. It's where we had a really brilliant first half, just couldn't score. And I think that kind of deflated us a little bit in the second half, where we'd thrown everything at the wall, probably should have scored, didn't. And then just sort of had to try and ride it out to get the point in the end.
But like you say, it's important that, because that can go the other way. You can have all the possession, all the chances, and then invariably it comes and bites you on the arse, and you can see the soft one at the end or something like that and lose a game that you've dominated. So it's important to not get beaten. Like you say, you're maintaining that position. You're not losing ground on those above you in Stevenage, but you're also maintaining the gap from Bradford, who are trying to chase you down. And it's a very tight promotion race. I think the top 7 comes from the top 8 now. Obviously, Leighton Orient, I think, are over the hill and far away. Well, but I still think that battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th is really, really tight. And yeah, I can't see anyone below. I think, is it Mansfield in 8th at the moment with Damien Evans? I can't see anyone else gate crashing it.
Yeah, I think if it was going to be anyone, it'd be Sutton, because I don't know if you've seen Saturday's game is Mansfield against Sutton. So if Sutton can get a win there, then I think that puts them right back into it. But I think after this weekend, if Mansfield have got that win, then it'll
Just
be
makes
very
that gap
much
bigger again, doesn't it? With
exactly.
games
That's
in
what I think
hand,
it'll
yeah.
be, and I think that'll kind of cut Sutton adrift. If they can get the win, they'll be right back in it. But you say about Leyton Orient, I don't think they're completely out of it yet. I think they're definitely going to go up, but we're not that far off them. Stevenage aren't either, and we've still got to play Leyton Orient. I
So
don't think. I don't
we've
think.
still got to play a lot of the tops. We've still got to play
Yeah,
Leyton Orient, you,
yeah,
Northampton, Bradford, Stockport, and Salford in our last 10 games.
yeah. We're very similar. We've got to play Leyton Orient. I know we've got to play Stockport. We've got to play Sutton, who I've just said they're up there as well. Cumbria and Derby and Barrow as well. Northampton as well. We've got very very similar ends to the season. Obviously, we're playing each other, and despite where Gillingham are in the league, I think at the moment it's a bit of a sort of false promise that where you look at them where they are in the league and you think they're a bad side. At the minute they're not. It's just that really poor start to the season that's put them down there. They're a lot more dangerous now. I'd much rather have played you.
Poor's generous. Calling it poor's very, very
Well, yeah,
generous.
you were bottom of the league for a long time, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I think we scored. I think we scored more goals in our first 3 games after the takeover, or what it was, than we did in the entire first half of the league campaign. It was staggering how bad we were in front of goal. And at the
Yeah, I'd
time, you think,
much
is it ever
rather
going to
played you
change?
then.
Oh yeah, and I remember you beating us at your place, and I think it was only 1-0, and it was a scruffy goal. I think it hit our centre half
Yeah.
and bounced in. But you were much the better side that day and deserved the points. And it didn't get better for a long time. But thankfully, since the takeover, we've spent well. And yeah, it gives us belief for next season. The next step now is obviously starting to try and beat the sides that are in the top portion of the table, because we've not done that. But at the same time, we don't have to do that to stay in the league. And that's the be all and end all between now and the end of the
Well,
season.
that's why you'll stay up, because Crawley, they're having a little bit of a revival, but the state that club's in at the minute, can't see them getting much further up the table. Then you've got Rochdale, who are having a little bit of revival, but again, them bottom three, it's Hartlepool, isn't it? The other one at the bottom three. Them three, I think you're better than all three of them.
Oh,
I think you're much
100%,
better
yeah.
than them. I don't think Gillingham will go down. I think they're safe now. And look, you say they you need to start beating teams at the top end of the table. That seems to be who you're playing come towards the end of the season. So that's got to happen one of these days. I just hope it isn't against Carlisle.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to get a win against one of the top teams before the end of the current campaign. But it's like I say, it's not defining us in terms of going into the next season, because obviously there'll be another transfer window and there'll be a pre-season. We've essentially got a new side. There's 6 or 7 that start that we basically had to get to learn on the job. And so that makes the turnaround even more impressive, in the sense that they've had to learn in games. And we all know what it's like when you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, you lose time on the training ground. So
Well,
yeah,
if you could do us a favour and beat Northampton for us, I'd be very much appreciated.
well, I'll say we're not going to be in the top 7, but we can certainly have a big effect on it between now and the end of the season if we can pick up points against a few of them teams. Obviously, it depends when you're playing them. I'm hoping Leyton Orient, I think that's a few weeks away. They might have won the title, so they might be on the beach and still hungover. So, but yeah, we're certainly going to have a say in what happens at that end of the table, and obviously all the time just making sure that we stay away from the bottom 2. Yeah, and we've taken 27 points from 42 available since the new group of players. So it's a phenomenal turnaround. I think it's first versus fourth in the form table based on the last 12 games. So it all points to being a really good afternoon's entertainment. I've probably jinxed it now, and it's now going to be the most horrible 0-0.
It's going to be another 0-0, yeah. 3 in a row.
This stat, and I was doing research for this video, and we've just mentioned it off air. Since the 14th of January, do not adjust your sets, people. This is real. Carlisle and Gillingham have played the same 10 sides, and them 10 sides are Hartlepool United, Colchester United, Swindon Town, Crawley Town, Mansfield Town, Grimsby Town, Rochdale, AFC Wimbledon, Bradford City, and Harrogate. From them 10 games, both sides have won 6 times, both sides have drawn twice, and both sides have lost twice. Carlisle and Gillingham have scored 14 each, and you've guessed it, Carlisle and Gillingham have conceded 9 each, both taking 20 points from 30 available. If anyone watching this can find me a better stat this week, crack on, because I want to hear it. I was genuinely staggered, Liam, when I read that, and I kept looking at it thinking, both won 6, both drawn the same. Surely not we're going to have the same goal difference. Oh, we've actually scored the same amount and conceded the same amount as well. Absolutely ridiculous. But we want to talk about...
This week.
Sorry?
It's got to change this weekend. Someone's got to go ahead of that.
If it hasn't, it could be a 1-1 draw.
You're very right. You're very right. It won't be a draw. It will not be a draw. I think we'll either get beat or we'll win. But no.
Right, Carlisle specifically. And I'll be honest, when I did my season preview video, right at the back, I think it was back end of July or middle of July, because the season started a little bit earlier than normal. I think I had you 19th,
Yeah.
making me look ridiculously stupid. Just how much have you overachieved this season? Because obviously we don't know as Gillingham fans what the aspirations were at the start of the season from the Carlisle fan base. So you might turn around and go, "Oh no, we thought we was going to get in the playoffs, so we're doing all right." But from what I read on social media, I think Carlisle fans would have generally said we build on what we did last season when Simpson kept us up. So if we can get mid-table, top 10, we've had a good year. So just how much have you overachieved based on what you thought the season would pan out like back in the summer?
Well, I'm definitely happy with where we are. I don't think anyone expected us to get anywhere near sort of the top end.
Mm-hmm.
I think what the idea was, Simpson signed a 3-year contract, and he was very, very open and honest that it was going to be a long-term project. So I think everyone would have been happy with mid-table, something like that. I mean, you'll obviously get your portion of fans that are, there's them in every club that go, "Oh, we're going to win the league," stuff like that. Because I don't think there's a manager in the '92 as loved as Paul Simpson is by the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's such a hero at Carlisle from what he did back in 2005, and obviously he's returned and done a brilliant job as well. Um, so look, the idea was try and back the manager for a few years, and maybe he'll get us promoted. Like that was the plan. And you've got to think as well, this group of players hasn't really changed much from last season. We've got Joe Garner's been brought in, and a few others. Paul Huntington's come in, been absolutely brilliant. But you've still got the likes of, our captain Morgan Feeney. He's here from last season. Jack Armour, Joel Senior. These are all players that he's inherited that were part of that team that were in a relegation battle under Keith Millen. The midfield as well, Jordan Gibson, who's been brilliant this season, inherited by Paul Simpson. Callum Guy, one of our best players, inherited, Amari Patrick, another one. So a lot of these players aren't his players. And I've seen them play horrendously before. And it seems to be just this magic little man, Paul Simpson, that's come in and just turned everything upside down. He's really overachieving. Like at the start of the season, if you'd have offered me a playoff place, I'd have, I wouldn't have believed you. I'd have snatched your hand off at that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But at this point in the season, you're like, I don't want to be the playoffs. I want to stay in the top 3. I want to go up.
That's it. Of course you do, because you can almost touch it now, can't you? Because the
Yeah,
games
exactly.
keep disappearing and you're still in there and you're just thinking, how many more wins do we need to guarantee it? You can almost like so you sort of, do you find yourself counting, right, we need this amount of points to say we're definitely in the top 7. And then you can go, right, if
Yeah.
we win these games, that then keeps us in the top 6, top 5. And then you start thinking, how many do we need to be top 3 to go up automatically?
Yes, very similar. I like looking at the other top 3 because it's that top 4 of Leyton Orient, Stevenage, Carlisle, Northampton. It's going to stay that top 4. It's just who drops out of the top 3 that's the big conversation point now. I think it's either 4 or 5 points that Northampton have got over the
It's
next
5
team below
points,
them.
yeah, from
5 points,
Northampton to
yeah,
Bradford.
yeah,
Even Mansfield with their games in hand, they can only get to 62 if they win both of them. So that'd take them to within 4 points in Northampton. So then you're still saying it's a big ask with 9
yeah.
games to go to bridge half a point a game.
So you sit there and you look at their run-ins till the end of the season. I think Carlisle have got the toughest out of the 4. Um, but we've got Northampton to play, and I think we've got one over on them. I think we can beat Northampton because Northampton they had a brilliant start to the season and they've trailed off, and they've started getting a little bit of form back now. But they're playing teams like Crawley and Colchester every week. They've played some pretty poor teams, and they're not winning convincingly at all. So I don't think it's much of an ask for us to beat them, and I hope that they're the ones that sort of drop out into 4th. I think that's what I think the top 3. If I had to
Do you
predict it
think
now,
they're
would be.
also potentially still scarred by what happened on the final day of last season?
Yeah, well, if that happens again, I'd be very happy with it because like that must have been crushing. Can you imagine that as a football fan? You just don't just they must hate Scunthorpe with a passion. Like all you have to do is not let in 7, and that's exactly what they've done. But they'll be scarred from that, and I hope they just miss out again.
Of course, I wouldn't expect you to say anything different.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a neutral, I think there's a lot of fans that would say it'd be quite nice if Northampton were able to right them wrongs, but you've all got to look after yourselves and you've all got to support your own team at the end of the day. Um, you've mentioned Paul Simpson. I want to sort of delve a little bit deeper as well for Gills fans. Just tell us, because you sort of mentioned it loosely and said he's a legend already for what he did in 2005. So just for us Gills fans that don't know, what did Paul Simpson do for the club in 2005?
Uh, well, what happened? It was started before that as well. He came into the club, I believe, around 2003, 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Carlisle were, I think, there were a massive amount of points cut adrift at the bottom of the league. There was stats that they could be the worst team ever to play in League Two. He almost kept us up that season. We went down. He got us promoted straight back up from the conference. This is him as player manager as well, his first managerial job. And he got us promoted, and then he won the League Two title that year. So
So it was back to
back to
back.
back promotions, and I think he was the first to get promoted and then win the league. You know, and he's loved for that because he was a good player for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
He played for Man City for a point, and then he came
I
to
remember him at Derby as a kid as well. I think in the
Derby.
90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Derby fans like him. He's a big kind of like a cult hero at Derby County. But yeah, people just love him because and he speaks and he says it how it is. You know, I could listen to that man speak for literally hours. Like he's absolutely adored, and he's from Carlisle as well, which really helps. You know, he's proper Cumbrian. And yet he's just loved, and that League Two title win in 2005 it was such a big achievement coming up straight back up from the conference. You know, it's the best that's ever been done from a newly promoted team, and people just want him to do the same thing again.
Would this be bigger? Because based on the fact that the game's changed now, there's more money
Yeah.
in the game. Would this be a bigger achievement than 2005, or do we just leave it as two separate things and just say he's just a bona fide legend?
Well, I was too young to remember 2005, but it'll be
Thank you
bigger
very
for
much.
me. Well, I was born 2004, so 1 year old Liam, I'm sure he was buzzing at the time, but I can't seem to remember it. But yeah, it'll be bigger for me, obviously. But you look at some of these other Carlisle fans, they all love him from that. The thing with money is interesting because he really hasn't spent a lot. Like,
Mm.
I think Joe Garner, I'm not sure if he spent a fee on him, but he's the only one
I
that
meant
hasn't
more,
come in as a
sorry, in
free
terms of
transfer.
other teams can spend more money
Yeah,
now
yeah,
because
well,
it's
yeah,
generally
exactly.
filtered through the divisions over the last 20
Yeah,
years. Whereas I think back in the early 2000s, it was almost
it
a
wasn't
level
as much.
playing field in
Yeah.
the fourth tier.
Well, you got the likes of Stockport just spraying money around. Even the players in the division below us, with like Wrexham and that spending loads of money. Salford, another example. But
Gills,
well, yeah, use lot exactly
a
in
little bit,
January.
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. I'm sure it'll be more than a little bit come the summer.
Hopefully.
But and I hope we're in the division above, so we don't have to deal with you lot next season, because I think you could be a little bit tricky. But yeah, I think it's a big achievement, especially because I think we had a bottom half budget. I think last season we had a bottom two budget. So what he's done with little resources and mainly players that he's inherited, it's a massive, massive accomplishment. And with owners that the fans do not like, you know, the owners at Carlisle, there's been protests over them. Obviously, them protests have died down a little bit now that we're
Winning
looking to
football
get
matches, yeah, of
promoted.
course.
Yeah, so he's loved because Carlisle fans have been that union between the players and the fans and the club and the fans hasn't been there of late over the last few years, and he's really brought that back. So it's not just what he's done on the pitch, Paul Simpson, that the fans love him for. He's come in, he said it how it is. He said, "Look, we don't have the money that other clubs have. We're going to try and do it this way," and he has done it, and the fans absolutely adore him for it.
No, I think that sums it up brilliant. It's great to hear as well. And like I say, after Saturday, I wish you all the best for the remaining few games of the season. I really hope that you do it because it's great to see like almost like an underdog story.
Mm.
And you do have one former Gills player from recent times, and that's Tomas Holy, one of the nicest blokes I've met in football. I mean, I'm very lucky from this channel, and you may have done the same, that you get to talk to players and stuff like that. And I had him on last summer. Actually, I'll tell you, it was the day he'd signed. Because
Oh,
I
really?
interviewed him and he was sat in a hotel in Carlisle that evening. He just signed on the dotted line to come up and play for you boys. How's Tomas been? Because he was very impressive for Gills over a sort of a 2-year period after settling in, and then we know it didn't quite work out at Ipswich, and I think he had like a slightly ill-fated spell on loan at Port Vale where it didn't go to plan.
Yeah.
But I mean, he can't be doing too bad if he's he's the last line of defence in a side that's third in the division at the moment.
Yeah, well, I can definitely be accused of being a bit harsh on Tomas Holy this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't a fan of the signing when he first came in because I read too much, what Port Vale fans were saying. Port Vale fans really didn't like him, and I think since he left Gillingham, when he was at Gillingham, he was getting linked with like Arsenal and Everton and teams like that, wasn't he? And he goes to Ipswich, doesn't work out. Goes to Port Vale, doesn't work out. The line that I heard a lot from Port Vale fans was, for a big man, he doesn't come off his line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly been one of his downfalls this season. But he's a presence. Like, he's absolutely massive. He's a proper
Oh, he's
unit in
gigantic.
the
Yeah,
nest.
I'm
Yeah,
6'4", and I stood next to him at a Player of the Year do a few years ago, and he made me look like a hobbit.
yeah. Well, look, we had a guy called Sonny Hilton on loan from us for the first half of the season who was, I think, 5'3". And one of the funniest pictures I've seen this season was Sonny Hilton standing next to Tomas Holy. Like, it literally looked like he took his kid to the football. It looked
We had
like,
exactly the same a few years ago at Charlton, and he sort of picked Bradley Dack up almost like that by his neck and just put him on the front post to defend a corner at the Valley. It was one of the funniest things I've seen. And to be fair, it was the highlight of the day because we were woeful and got slapped 3-0, I think. But yeah, so I know what you're talking about.
it
He is
looked like
absolutely gigantic.
Yeah, it looked like he was having money. The mascots that walk out with them at the start of the game. It looked like that. But yeah, and he's clearly a really good character to have around the club. Like, that seems to be really evident. Like, he absolutely loves. Like, I got quite a lot of away games.
Mm.
Every single time we win, which is a lot this season, he'll come over to the away fans, and he's got this Carlisle towel that's become a little bit famous that he always hangs in the back of his net. He always picks the towel up and brings it and swings it round and puts it round in the Carlisle fans. The fans love him. Um, he's had his moments. He can largely be blamed for us dropping out of the FA Cup at Warsaw. Like, it was his bad mistake
Mm-hmm.
that lost us that. So he has had his moments, and I think he is protected a little bit by the amazing defense that's in front of him. Like, a lot of these clean sheets you talk about, a lot of the time it is a clean sheet with 0 shots on target that he's had to deal with.
Okay.
Is so he's a very controversial figure amongst Carlisle fans. Like, some fans absolutely love him. Some fans don't like that he doesn't come for crosses, which he does need to improve on. And to be fair to him, he does a lot of interviews and he says it himself that he needs to work on that. Like, he has said he does acknowledge his mistakes when he makes them. So I think there is room for improvement, but I think that he has been a really big part in, like, the feeling that the team has at the minute, and he does have his brilliant moments. It's some good saves he's made. Like, I remember a few weeks ago, I can't remember who it was against. Comes out with a sort of one-on-one situation, and you can see the striker just completely bricks it, and just you see this 6 foot, what is he, 6'9", 6'10", running at you like that.
Something
You
like that, yeah.
do, don't you? And yeah, he has his moments, and he is a big part of the dressing room. Um, but yeah, I quite like him. Like I said, he's many mistakes, but any keeper at this level does. I'd be very happy to see us stick with him next season, I think,
Okay.
if we go up.
That was almost my next question: is do you think he's still good enough to step back up into League One? Because he's played the majority of his career in England in League One.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how you progress and how he progresses individually if you do get yourselves over the line or go up via Wembley.
He's got a very good backup keeper as well, which I think has pushed him on a bit. Like Mick Kelly, Irish keeper, came over from the Irish League. He's a big character. He seems to be very, very rated by fans as well. So I think that has pushed him on a little bit as well, having a good number 2.
That's it, yeah, because you don't want anyone coasting, do you, and thinking that their position's safe
Yeah.
regardless of form. Right, to the more immediate. That is Saturday, 3 p.m. We're recording this on a Wednesday, so there's no press conferences, like I say, every week from the clubs. I think generally Wednesday's the day off for most teams up and down the country. But what's Paul Simpson's team going to be come 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon?
It's a tough one, especially up front, because the last 2 games we've started with 2 different strike partnerships, 4 different players.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's obviously going to be Tomas Holy in nets. I think he'll go with the same back 5, which is Jack Armour on the left, Morgan Feeney, John Mellish, and whoever's through the middle, because Paul Huntington, who's probably our best player, it'll be something that you guys will definitely look at. Our best centre back, he is out injured, so we'll probably either have Ben Barkley, who came in against Bradford, or we'll have Corey Whelan. I
Okay.
prefer Corey Whelan, but I think he will go with Ben Barkley because that's who he seems to like to go with. With Joel Senior out on the right, who he's having a good. He's just come back from injury. He's playing well now that he's back. Midfield will stay the same. It'll be Callum Guy, Owen Moxon, and McCalmont. He might throw Gibson in there to spruce it up a little bit, but I can see him sticking with McCalmont on loan from Leeds, I believe.
Hmm.
And then you get to that front two, and that's where it gets really complicated because
So
he
it was
could
Edmondson
go
and
with
Dennis against Bradford,
yeah.
wasn't it?
But then you look at Stevenage. He went with I think it was it
Garner and Patrick.
Garner and Patrick exactly. I like Garner and I like Edmondson, but I don't think he likes starting them together. I think he might go back to Patrick and Garner, but I think Ryan Edmondson could be a shout to come in over Garner. So it could be. It's a really tough one because he likes changing his strikers to Simpson. I would maybe go with Edmondson and Patrick. That would be my prediction, I think.
So yeah, so it's not going to be many changes, just tweaks rather than
It'll just be that front
wholesale
two.
swaps. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
understandable. It's a side that's playing well, and is, like we say, they're fighting for promotion for a reason. In terms of the Gills team news, we know 3 people that won't be available for selection of Ben Reeves, Lewis Walker, and Scott Cashgit due to injury. And then we're obviously waiting to see if anything comes out of Tuesday night's win at home to Crewe Alexander. I don't think anyone went off injured, but these things can come out after the game, can't they? So for me, it'd be the same keeper. That'll be the cat in goal, Glenn Morris, who's been absolutely superb since returning to the club. I'd stick with the same back four, which would be Shay Alexander, Max Emer, Connor Masterson, and Robbie McKenzie from right to left. The only thing I'm not keen on is Robbie McKenzie's naturally right-footed. So then if he gets over the halfway line, he naturally tucks inside into traffic, which was very evident against Crewe. But defensively, he's very solid. I'll make a couple of changes to the midfield four from Tuesday night's win. Aidan O'Brien has to come in after scoring off the bench. That was his first for the club, so his confidence is going to be sky high. So I'll play him from the left. I'll persist with Alex McDonald from the right. And I must admit, on the Matchday Live video on Tuesday, I was just not slagging him off. I was constructively criticising him. I said his delivery had been rubbish, and he's actually admitted that to me on Instagram as well. It's a fair play to Macca. I said, you can't let him take corners and set pieces anymore tonight. And then, would you believe it, the Crewe centre half laid it to his feet and he clipped it to the back post for Tom Nichols to smash it in the corner. So McDonald stays in on the right for me. I'd make one change in the middle. I'd keep Sean Williams as captain. I'd take Tim Dieng out this week. He's not been poor by any stretch of the imagination since arriving, but he's just dipped in terms of the standards that we saw when he first arrived. So I'd give George Lapsley a role as a natural number 8. I think he's been shunted out to the side too often since arriving, and we've not seen the best of him. And up front, I'd stick with the same two. So that'd be Tom Nichols and Ollie Hawkins, the very, very generic big man, little man partnership. Nichols scored in the week. Ollie Hawkins scored and wrongfully had one disallowed, which meant that Neil Harris got sent off. So I'm not sure he's going to be on the touchline, which was frustrating. But that's the standard of EFL officials, unfortunately. Right, Liam, before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening, one big question that I always ask, and I've written mine down. What is your score prediction?
Ooh, I said 2-1 to Carlisle earlier today, so I'm going to stick with that.
It's fair enough. And like I said, got no issue with that. I'd expect you to back your team. You're playing well, and regardless of the Gills turnaround, you've been better over a longer period of the season. So entirely get that. Our home form's been very good. I think this might be the first one that we draw at home since the takeover because it's been 6 wins from 7 and 1 defeat. So I've gone for
1-1.
Score draw, 1 each. I don't think that's a disaster for us at all. It would maintain that distance between us and the bottom two. You never know, it might not be a disaster for you, depending on other results. But no, I think it'd be a close game. I think it'd be a lot more competitive than we saw up at your place back in the summer. Seems like an absolute lifetime ago now, such as the change at our club in terms of signings and just general mood. It feels like a completely different place. Do you know roughly how many tickets have been sold from Carlisle? I assume you travel quite well considering your position in the league.
Yeah, we always travel well. I'm not sure how many we've sold. I know we had over 1,000 at Bradford on Tuesday, so obviously it's a lot further down.
Yeah, so it's a bit more of a trip, but it's a Saturday.
Yeah, exactly, and
you get to sit in the
everywhere
best away stand in the whole world.
Okay, yeah. Is it known for that? I've been to some bad ones. I've never been to Gillingham.
If you're not a fan of roofs, then you're absolutely fine. So
okay, right, okay. I know Stockport's doesn't have a roof. I was in that one earlier this season. I've never been to Gillingham to that ground, to be honest. It's one I'd like to do, but I think I'd expect about at least 400 Chelsea
Cool.
down.
Which should make for a really good atmosphere. Yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately, that was the one disappointment Tuesday night. There was a decent amount of Gills fans. I think it was about 5,700 Gills fans, but
mm.
Crew, understandably, for a side that season's pretty much over, only bought 76, I think it was. But fair play to all of them for
76.
travelling, yeah. But like you say, we'd expect you to bring a lot more because you're in a position that you are and
Yeah,
you're all dreaming of promotion. So, like I said, good luck to Liam and good luck to Carlisle after Saturday afternoon. It's been a real pleasure, mate. Really appreciate you coming on, spending half
yeah.
hour or
Thanks
so
for having me on.
chatting about Carlisle United. Gills fans, like I've said, go and check out Liam. His details are in the description at the bottom of the video on for Twitter and for his YouTube channel. Do not forget that these videos are now in association with Art of Football. So if you need anything retro or vintage in terms of hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, prints, classic shirts, bucket hats, they do it all. Their link is down there as well. So go and check them out. They do absolutely everything. They're brilliant people that are doing that channel, doing that website. Sorry. So please continue to support them. Please continue to support the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe once you've watched this video. We appreciate it. If you're still listening at this time, thank you very much. Myself, Boz, Stocky, and the gang will be there Saturday for a match day live. So come over and say hello. Hopefully, it'll be a decent game. Should be a good atmosphere. Fingers crossed the weather's a bit better than it was Tuesday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and up the Gills.